the alien warrior's insatiable hunger as a symbol of power. The alien warrior Tor'gax, like all Mork'rax, is driven by a relentless need to consume. His people have traveled the galaxy, not to merely conquer worlds, but to devour them in every sense of the word. They consume food, resources, and the very will of the civilizations they encounter, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. This hunger, however, is not just physical, it's also a deep psychological need that fuels their existence. The Mork'rax are not merely soldiers or conquerors, they are creatures whose evolution has made them dependent on this insatiable need to dominate and absorb everything around them. For the Mork'rax, hunger is not a weakness but a form of strength. The more a warrior can eat, the greater their prestige in their society. Warriors like Tor'gax train their bodies to push beyond the limits of normal consumption, both in battle and in food. The size of their meals directly correlates with the size of their victories. A warrior's capacity to gorge and fight is celebrated in their culture, and over time, it has become more than a biological need, it has become a way to measure status, pride, and honor. Tor'gax, being one of the strongest Mork'rax warriors, carries with him this endless hunger as a badge of honor. His appetite is both terrifying and fascinating to those who encounter him. But it's more than just gluttony. His hunger represents the endless expansion of the Mork'rax empire, which consumes weaker civilizations just as Tor'gax consumes food and opponents. His need to eat reflects his need to prove himself worthy of his rank and his reputation. When Tor'gax arrives on Earth, he doesn't simply come for a battle, he comes to consume. To him, Earth is just another meal waiting to be devoured, another test of his ability to conquer through appetite and might. His arrival, however, is not just about subjugating the human race, but about showing them that their planet is insignificant in the grand scope of the galaxy. His hunger is cosmic in scale, a force that no world has yet been able to quench. Tor'gax's demand, "Feed me, human," isn't just about food, it's a challenge to the very essence of Earth's people. It's a test of whether they can withstand the unstoppable force of a being who lives to consume. In his eyes, the planet is nothing more than a banquet, and the humans, mere ingredients for his victory. The reader can feel the looming dread as Tor'gax's presence symbolizes an unstoppable force, making it clear that Earth must either rise to the occasion or be devoured like the countless other civilizations that fell before the Mork'rax hunger. The portrayal of Tor'gax's hunger extends beyond his individual needs. It represents a much larger, more existential threat to Earth and the broader galactic community. His species is not unique in seeking expansion, but the Mork'rax do so through a uniquely primal and terrifying method. As Tor'gax interacts with Earth's leaders, scientists, and warriors, his hunger becomes a symbol for the fundamental human fears of being overwhelmed, consumed, and erased by a force too powerful to be reasoned with. Tor'gax's demands are simple, but the implications are vast. Can humanity satisfy a being whose needs are infinite? How can they defend against a species whose entire culture is built around the idea of endless consumption? As the story unfolds, the audience is invited to explore these questions, realizing that Tor'gax and the Mork'rax represent a cosmic reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the insatiable nature of conquest. What Tor'gax seeks is not just food, but validation of his own superiority. His hunger is a challenge, a form of psychological warfare that tests not just Earth's physical might, but its will survive in the face of an overwhelming, unrelenting force. His appetite grows with every victory, and with each battle he wins, his hunger becomes a more potent symbol of his desire for galactic dominance. Earth's fight against Tor'gax becomes a struggle, not just for survival but for the right to exist without being consumed by a greater, seemingly invincible power. The story, in this sense, delves into the nature of hunger itself, not just for food, but for power, recognition, and dominance. Tor'gax's hunger represents a black hole, a void that can never be filled, and Earth's challenge is to find a way to either satisfy or resist this hunger. The stakes grow higher as the world watches in horror, knowing that failure means not just defeat, but complete consumption of their planet, their culture, and their very existence. In exploring the Mork'rax hunger, the story taps into primal fears of consumption, not just in the literal sense but in the metaphorical sense as well. Conquest, colonization, and the stripping away of a people's identity are all symbolized in Tor'gax's bottomless stomach, making his demand "feed me" human, not just a physical threat but an existential one. Humanity's unlikely response to the alien threat. When Tor'gax, the Mork'rax warrior, makes his first demand "feed me human," it sends shockwaves across the globe. His arrival is sudden and unprovoked, and the sheer magnitude of his appetite is something no one could have anticipated. Governments, military leaders, and scientists are left scrambling, trying to comprehend this unprecedented scenario. An alien threat, not driven by conquest in the traditional sense, but by an insatiable hunger for both food and battle. The challenge is not just to stop him, but to feed him, all while ensuring Earth's survival. This situation plunges the world into chaos as a global response effort is hastily organized. At first there is confusion. How does one fight an alien who demands not just combat but food on a scale that boggles the mind? The world's political leaders hold emergency meetings, seeking solutions, while the media broadcasts updates on this strange new threat. Citizens panic, unsure of what to expect. The collective realization that Earth's survival hinges on a bizarre combination of food and warfare feels both surreal and terrifying. The governments of Earth decide to meet Tor'gax's demands, knowing full well that failure could lead to destruction. A coalition is formed, with the world's top military strategists and chefs brought together to devise a plan. This is where the story takes an intriguing turn, where humanity must confront this alien threat, using two of its most powerful cultural symbols: war and food. The Earth Defense Fleet, led by Captain Lorne Walker, is tasked with organizing the military response. But this isn't a war they can win with just bullets and bombs. The battles with Tor'gax are only half of the challenge. They must also feed him. As the military prepares for battle, governments across the globe work frantically to prepare a feast worthy of an alien warlord. The stakes are high. If they fail to meet his demands, Earth could be doomed. The preparation for the feast becomes an unprecedented global effort. Chefs from every corner of the world are called upon to create a banquet of epic proportions, one that can satisfy an alien species known for its insatiable hunger. Cooking becomes a matter of survival, as the world's greatest culinary minds come together to create dishes that will both impress and fill the seemingly bottomless stomach of the Mork'rax warrior. It's a culinary arms race, with the fate of the planet hanging on the ability to satisfy an appetite no one fully understands. Massive cooking stations are set up in remote military bases, and convoys of food are flown in from across the globe. The logistics are mind-boggling, with entire herds of cattle, enormous shipments of grain, and crates of seafood being transported to create a feast unlike anything ever seen on Earth. Scientists and nutritionists are brought in to analyze Mork'rax biology, trying to determine what kind of food would best suit their alien physiology. Speculation runs wild. Will Tor'gax prefer Earth's meats or plants? Will human culinary techniques impress or disgust him? Meanwhile, the military strategists work tirelessly to devise a plan for engaging Tor'gax in combat. This, too, requires a different approach. The Mork'rax thrive on battle as much as they do on food, meaning that Earth's soldiers are not just fighting for their lives but providing Tor'gax with entertainment and sustenance. The Earth Defense Fleet is up against an opponent who views combat not as a means to an end, but as a form of nourishment. This turns the entire notion of warfare on its head. The story dives into the intricate preparation for this two-pronged strategy: feeding and fighting. Earth's response is one of desperation and ingenuity, blending the absurd with the deadly serious. Military forces are put on high alert, but alongside tanks and artillery, they are shipping gourmet meals to the battleground. Battle plans are drawn up, but so are menus, as Earth's top chefs plan an interstellar banquet. There's an underlying tension as humanity tries to balance these two opposing forces. On one hand, the combat with Tor'gax is brutal and unrelenting. The warriors sent to fight him know they face a nearly impossible task. How do you stop an enemy who thrives on each fight, whose very hunger grows with each victory? On the other hand, the chefs and culinary teams face their own immense pressure. Feeding Tor'gax isn't just a matter of providing sustenance, it's about creating a feast that is worthy of his warrior status, one that can temporarily slake his insatiable hunger. The blending of warfare and feasting makes for an unusual but captivating juxtaposition. The story can explore the high-stakes choreography of these two vastly different yet equally important strategies. Soldiers train not just for combat but for endurance, knowing that Tor'gax won't stop until he is either defeated or fully sated. Meanwhile, kitchens around the world operate in overdrive, producing lavish meals that are then airlifted to military bases for Tor'gax's feasts between battles. As the Earth Defense Fleet prepares to engage Tor'gax in combat, tensions rise. The first battle is fought in a remote desert, with Tor'gax's shuttle touching down amidst the scorching heat. The military has set up an arena, as per Tor'gax's request, where he can hunt and fight in open spaces. The ground shakes as the alien warrior steps out, his massive frame casting a shadow across the dunes. His golden eyes gleam with hunger not just for food, but for the thrill of battle. The human soldiers stand ready, their nerves tense. The scale of the opponent they face is unimaginable. Tor'gax is no ordinary invader, he is a primal force, driven by an instinct that no earthly soldier has ever encountered. The first fight is brutal and swift, with Tor'gax displaying a terrifying combination of strength, speed, and tactical intelligence. As he strikes down Earth's finest, his eyes burn with an even deeper hunger. He is not yet satisfied. After the first battle, Tor'gax is led to a feast prepared specifically for him. In a secure location, vast tables are set with food from every corner of the globe: roasts, stews, fresh produce, and intricate desserts. There are entire animals cooked whole, vats of soup large enough to feed entire human cities, and towers of bread and cakes stacked high. As Tor'gax approaches the table, there is an uneasy silence. The chefs, military officers, and scientists all watch, waiting to see how he will respond. The battle of endurance, physical and psychological warfare. The war with Tor'gax quickly evolves into something far more grueling and complex than a straightforward military conflict. While Earth's armies may have anticipated the physical toll of fighting a relentless alien warrior, what they hadn't counted on was the sheer, unrelenting length of the battle. Tor'gax's hunger is a force that grows stronger with each victory, each meal, and each fight. His stamina seems endless, and his very biology is built for prolonged warfare, a warrior who feeds on combat in a literal and metaphorical sense. Every clash with Earth's forces seems to only strengthen him, both in body and spirit. This is where Captain Lorne Walker begins to realize that brute force alone will never be enough to defeat Tor'gax. Earth's initial battles against him are disastrous, not because the soldiers are unskilled, but because they are fighting a creature whose energy and hunger for battle only increase with each confrontation. Every fight, no matter how grueling, seems to only whet Tor'gax's appetite for more. His towering figure, his muscular form, and his tireless eyes that gleam with the thrill of battle start to wear down even the bravest of Earth's warriors. In the early stages of the campaign, Walker and his team struggle to keep up. They engage Tor'gax in different terrains: deserts, forests, urban settings, but no matter where they fight, the outcome is always the same: Tor'gax is never satisfied. He destroys their strongest soldiers, consumes the feast they provide, and demands more. Earth's forces, though powerful, find themselves exhausted. The human soldiers, though valiant, grow weaker and more demoralized with each battle. They quickly realize that to beat Tor'gax in a straightforward fight is nearly impossible. The psychological toll on Earth's soldiers becomes a major focus in the narrative. The constant fighting, with no clear victory in sight, wears them down mentally. Tor'gax's endless hunger becomes a terrifying symbol of futility. The more they fight, the more they feed him. Walker knows that morale is starting to crack. Soldiers begin to question their ability to win this war. How can they defeat a being who seems impervious to exhaustion, whose hunger grows in direct proportion to their effort? Walker, though weary himself, begins to see the battle for what it truly is: a contest of endurance, not just of strength. If they continue to fight Tor'gax on his terms, brutal, head-to-head combat, they will inevitably lose. Walker realizes that he must change tactics. He understands that this is not just a physical war, but a psychological one. If Earth is to have any chance of survival, they must find a way to exhaust Tor'gax, not just physically, but mentally. He begins to devise a new strategy, one that centers on outlasting the alien warrior rather than overpowering him. Tor'gax's strength lies in his insatiable hunger, but it is also his greatest weakness. If they can stretch him to his limits, make him constantly fight, constantly consume without giving him a moment's rest, they might stand a chance. But to do this, Walker knows that they must approach the battle in a way that no Mork'rax warrior has ever encountered before. Walker's plan is risky and dangerous, but it's the only option. He begins to organize Earth's military forces in shifts, rotating fresh soldiers into battle while giving others time to recover. Each unit is sent to fight Tor'gax for only a short duration before being pulled back and replaced by a new wave. They use guerrilla tactics, hitting him hard, then retreating quickly. The goal is not to defeat Tor'gax in one decisive battle, but to chip away at him, slowly but surely. This strategy turns the fight into a long, drawn-out war of attrition, where time becomes the real weapon. The soldiers are trained to avoid direct confrontation, to engage Tor'gax in quick skirmishes that frustrate and annoy him, rather than satisfy his need for a real fight. Tor'gax, at first, views this change in tactics as a cowardly human attempt to escape his wrath. He becomes enraged, his hunger growing even stronger as the battles become shorter and more elusive. He begins to hunt the soldiers more aggressively, his fury rising with each unsatisfying encounter. Meanwhile, Earth's top psychological strategists work behind the scenes, analyzing Tor'gax's behavior and mindset. They study his reactions to different battle environments, different forms of food, and different types of combat. Tor'gax, while seemingly invincible, is still a sentient being with limits, and Walker's team knows they must push those limits to break him. This psychological aspect of the battle becomes just as important as the physical combat. Walker understands that Tor'gax is driven not only by his need to consume food and fight, but also by his pride as a warrior. His victories feed his ego just as much as they feed his body. By denying him the satisfaction of a full, decisive battle, Earth's forces are slowly chipping away at his confidence, undermining the very core of his identity. The story begins to explore the deep psychological warfare between Tor'gax and the humans. Each time Tor'gax expects a grand fight, the humans retreat just before he can fully engage, leaving him unsatisfied and angry. His frustration mounts with each passing day, and his once unshakable composure starts to crack. Tor'gax's hunger grows ever more intense, but the satisfaction he craves remains just out of reach. This tactic of slowly wearing him down, both physically and mentally, turns the tide of the war. As the days stretch into weeks, the tension on both sides rises. Earth's soldiers are tired, but they see the small victories starting to accumulate. Tor'gax, who once seemed invincible, begins to show signs of fatigue. His movements, while still powerful, are not quite as fast as they were at the start. His roars, once deafening, now have an edge of desperation. His need to consume, once a symbol of dominance, now begins to appear as a weakness. This shift in the dynamic between Tor'gax and Earth's forces creates a gripping sense of suspense and anticipation. Every encounter, every skirmish, becomes a delicate balance of pushing Tor'gax to the edge without overextending the human forces. The psychological warfare intensifies as both sides push their endurance to the breaking point. Tor'gax, who has always thrived on hunger, now begins to feel its weight bearing down on him, even as he fights to maintain control over his primal instincts. For Walker and his team, the war has become a marathon, not a sprint. The constant cycle of fighting, retreating, and re-engaging has worn down the soldiers, but they see the cracks forming in Tor'gax's unbreakable facade. Yet they know that victory, if it comes, will not be swift, the cultural clash, and the ultimate gamble. As the war with Tor'gax drags on, it becomes increasingly clear that this is more than just a physical battle. It's a profound clash of cultures, ideologies, and values. Tor'gax, representing the Mork'rax, embodies a culture built on insatiable hunger, dominance, and conquest, while humanity, though flawed and fragile in comparison, stands for survival, creativity, and the adaptability that has allowed them to thrive on Earth. The longer the conflict stretches, the more the differences between these two species become apparent. Tor'gax views Earth and its inhabitants as weak, soft, and unworthy of standing against the mighty Mork'rax. To him, human culture, with its emphasis on compassion, ingenuity, and diplomacy, is a sign of inferiority. He comes from a world where only the strongest survive, and strength is measured in consumption of food, of opponents, of entire planets. The Mork'rax, as a species, have long thrived by devouring everything in their path, leaving desolation behind. They believe that this hunger is not just a biological trait, but a divine mandate, a cosmic right that has allowed them to become one of the most feared species in the galaxy. For Tor'gax, this war is not just about satisfying his physical hunger, it's about proving the superiority of his species over humanity. Each battle, each feast, is a statement of power, a way of saying that the Mork'rax are the ultimate predators, and all other species are mere prey. His demand, "Feed me, human," is both literal and symbolic. He demands sustenance, but he also demands submission, a recognition from humanity that they are lesser beings in the grand hierarchy of the universe. On the other side, humanity, though desperate and outmatched, begins to realize that they have strengths that Tor'gax and the Mork'rax cannot comprehend. Earth's people are not driven by hunger alone, but by a deep-rooted will to survive, adapt, and evolve. They fight not because they desire conquest, but because they know no other way to protect what they hold dear. Their culture is built on the notion of preservation, creativity, and cooperation. Unlike the Mork'rax, humans don't consume the world around them, they build, they innovate, they seek to improve. This becomes evident in the way humanity responds to Tor'gax's challenge. At first, they try to meet his demands head-on, attempting to match his hunger with endless feasts and his battle prowess with brute force. But soon, they realize that to win this war, they must rely on the very traits that make them unique. Humanity's ability to think outside the box, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to use creativity as a weapon begins to shine. One of the most striking examples of this cultural clash comes through the ongoing preparation of feasts for Tor'gax. As Earth's chefs and culinary experts work tirelessly to create meals large enough and grand enough to satisfy the alien warrior, they begin to understand that food, in Mork'rax culture, is a tool of dominance. The size and opulence of the feast signify power, and Tor'gax views each meal as a tribute to his superiority. However, Earth's chefs decide to turn this on its head. In a bold move, the chefs begin to create meals that are not just large, but intricate, artistic, and infused with human ingenuity. They start crafting dishes that go beyond mere sustenance, blending flavors, textures, and culinary techniques from all around the world. They incorporate the diverse culinary traditions of Earth's spices from the East, sauces from Europe, the rich meats of South America, and the fresh seafood of the coasts. These meals become a showcase of humanity's creativity, not just its ability to provide food. Tor'gax, while initially indifferent to the nuances of Earth's cuisine, starts to take notice. Though he devours each meal with the same voracious hunger, there is something in the complexity and creativity of the food that gives him pause. He has never encountered a species that places such value on the act of creation, especially in something as basic as food. This subtly begins to shift his perception of humanity, not as mere prey, but as a species with a unique perspective, one that values creation as much as he values consumption. As the story progresses, this cultural clash comes to a head. Tor'gax's hunger, though still insatiable, starts to reflect a deeper desire, one that even he cannot fully articulate. The endless consumption that has defined his life begins to feel hollow when compared to the richness and diversity of human experience. His need to dominate, to devour, starts to conflict with the growing realization that humanity, for all its weaknesses, possesses something the Mork'rax do not: the ability to create something out of nothing, to build rather than destroy. Walker, realizing this shift, decides to take the ultimate gamble. Instead of continuing the endless cycle of battle and feasts, he proposes something entirely different, a form of negotiation that has never been attempted with the Mork'rax. He suggests that humanity can offer something more valuable than food or combat. They can offer knowledge, innovation, and the potential for a different kind of power, one that comes from creation rather than destruction. This is a gamble because Tor'gax, for all his growing respect for human culture, is still a warrior at heart. His people have never negotiated, they have always taken what they wanted by force. Walker knows that this proposal could backfire, that Tor'gax could view it as a sign of weakness and decide to end humanity's resistance once and for all. But Walker also understands that this is their only chance to turn the tide, to show Tor'gax that there is another way, a way that doesn't involve endless consumption and destruction. The negotiations, if they are to happen, will be fraught with tension. Tor'gax's pride, his cultural identity, and his insatiable hunger all stand in the way of any peaceful resolution. But as he continues to engage with humanity, as he witnesses their creativity, their resilience, and their ability to thrive despite impossible odds, the cracks in his once unshakable belief in Mork'rax's superiority begin to show. The cultural clash between the Mork'rax and humanity becomes the central conflict of the story. Tor'gax's hunger, once a symbol of dominance, starts to represent something deeper, the existential struggle of a species that has known nothing but consumption, now confronted with the species that finds power in creation. The resolution of this conflict will not come easily, and both sides will be pushed to their limits. Counsel of the story: feed me, human, the alien warrior's endless hunger. The story opens with the sudden arrival of Tor'gax, a hulking, battle-hardened warrior from the fearsome alien species known as the Mork'rax. Tor'gax issues a chilling demand: feed me, human. Earth's governments and military forces are caught off guard, unsure how to respond to this unprecedented situation. Tor'gax's presence isn't motivated by traditional conquest, but by an insatiable hunger both for food and for battle. His species, the Mork'rax, are known for consuming everything in their path, both physically and through violent domination. Earth is his latest target. Humanity's response. Why? In the face of this enormous alien threat, Earth's leaders convene, struggling to understand how to meet Tor'gax's demands while ensuring humanity's survival. It's soon clear that brute force alone will not be enough to defeat this alien warrior. Tor'gax thrives on conflict, gaining strength from each battle and each meal. His appetite is not only physical but symbolic of his dominance. If his hunger goes unsatisfied, whether through food or combat, he threatens to unleash destruction on Earth. As world leaders and strategists scramble to find a solution, an unlikely coalition forms: top military tacticians and the world's greatest chefs. They hatch a plan to fight Tor'gax in two ways: first, through physical combat to satiate his warrior's hunger for battle, and second, by preparing vast feasts to meet his enormous demands for food. This marks the beginning of an unprecedented war, where Earth's soldiers engage Tor'gax on the battlefield while simultaneously attempting to feed him to prevent further devastation. The Battle of Endurance. As the conflict rages on, it becomes clear that this is not a conventional war. Tor'gax's hunger only grows with each battle, and his power seems limitless. Every time he defeats Earth's forces or devours one of their grand feasts, his appetite intensifies. Captain Lorne Walker, leader of Earth's defense forces, quickly realizes that fighting Tor'gax directly will lead to humanity's doom. The more they feed him, the stronger he becomes. Walker devises a new strategy, centered on exhausting Tor'gax rather than overpowering him. Earth's soldiers begin fighting in rotating shifts, engaging Tor'gax in short skirmishes designed to frustrate and weaken him over time. These battles, though small, start to take their toll. Meanwhile, Earth's chefs rise to the challenge, crafting meals that are not only large enough to feed an alien, but also showcase the ingenuity and creativity of human cuisine. These feasts become a strange combination of survival strategy and cultural resistance, meals that not only feed Tor'gax's body but aim to distract and confuse him with their complexity. The cultural clash. As the war continues, it becomes apparent that this conflict is not just about survival, but a profound cultural clash. The Mork'rax, and Tor'gax in particular, view strength as synonymous with consumption both in battle and in sustenance. To them, the ability to devour and dominate is the ultimate expression of power. On the other hand, humanity's strength lies in its ability to create, innovate, and endure. Earth's chefs and soldiers begin to realize that their creativity, whether in the art of war or in the culinary arena, can be a weapon against Tor'gax's brute hunger. Tor'gax, while physically unstoppable, begins to struggle with the psychological implications of the war. His endless hunger, once a source of pride, becomes an unshakable burden. The more he consumes, the more unsatisfied he feels. This growing frustration leads to cracks in his once unbreakable resolve. He starts to recognize that humanity, though physically weaker, possesses a strength his species lacks the ability to build and thrive without endless destruction. The ultimate gamble. Captain Walker, seeing the cracks in Tor'gax's psyche, proposes a bold and risky gamble and attempt at negotiation. Walker offers something the Mork'rax have never experienced: a different kind of power. Instead of conquest through hunger and destruction, humanity offers knowledge, creativity, and the ability to thrive through cooperation rather than consumption. This proposal challenges everything Tor'gax believes in, threatening to undermine his identity as a Mork'rax warrior. However, Walker's gamble comes with enormous risk. Tor'gax could see this offer as a sign of weakness and respond with renewed violence. Yet, the growing respect Tor'gax has developed for humanity's unique strengths makes him hesitate. He is torn between his instinctive hunger for domination and the realization that Earth's strength comes from a different kind of power, one that may hold the key to something deeper than mere consumption. The war, once a battle of bodies, now becomes a battle of ideologies. Tor'gax's struggle to reconcile his primal hunger with the allure of humanity's creativity sets the stage for the story's climax. Whether the negotiations succeed or fail will determine the fate of Earth, and possibly the future of the Mork'rax.